Jake Miller wiped his sweaty palms on his uniform for the third time in 10 minutes as he stared at the massive alien ship floating outside the viewing window of the New Horizon. The sleek vessel looked like it was carved from silver and starlight, with elegant curves that made human ships look like flying boxies. Captain Lisa Stone stood beside him, reviewing the first contact protocols on her tablet. Her gray hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and her expression showed the weight of making history. Today would mark the first official meeting between humans and the Kaleri species. The communications bay buzzed with nervous energy. Amy Ross, the chief engineer, was running final checks on the translation equipment, while Dr. Ben Clark adjusted his xenobiology scanner for the 100th time. Everyone knew this meeting could change the course of human history. Had been chosen as the primary communications officer because of his skill with languages and his calm demeanor under pressure. Right now, though, he felt anything but calm. His job was to facilitate smooth communication between the two species and ensure no cultural mistakes happened. The Kaleri had been discovered 3 months ago when their exploration fleet encountered a human mining operation near the Centauri system. Unlike other alien species, humans had met. The Kaleri seemed sophisticated and peaceful. They had art, music, and complex social structures that fascinated human scientists through long-range communications. The Kaleri had agreed to this formal meeting. Their language was musical and flowing with subtle tones that carried deep meaning. The translation software had been programmed with basic Kaleri vocabulary, but everyone knew real-time translation would be challenging. Captain Stone received word that the Kalari shuttle was approaching. She straightened her uniform and looked at her crew. "This is it, people. Remember, we represent all of humanity today. Let's make a good impression." The docking bay filled with soft blue light. As the Kaleri shuttle settled into place, Jake watched through the security feed as the airlocks cycled open. 3 figures emerged from the alien craft, moving with fluid grace that seemed almost like dancing. The lead figure was clearly female, with skin that shimmered like blue silk. She wore flowing robes that seemed to shift color as she moved. Her hair was long and white, with intricate braids woven with small crystals that caught the light. Behind her walked 2 other Kaleri, who appeared to be guards or advisors. Jake activated his translator device and checked the settings one final time. The device would convert his English words into Kaleri speech patterns, while translating their responses back to him. He had practiced with the basic phrases Dr. Clark had taught him, but this would be his first real test. Delegation entered the main meeting chamber, where Captain Stone waited with her senior staff. The female Kaleri stepped forward and spoke. In a voice like wind chimes, her translator rendered her words as "Greetings, people of Earth. I am Zarathel, of the Kaleri Diplomatic Corps. We come in peace, seeking understanding between our peoples." Jake felt his heart skip as he looked at Zarathel. She was beautiful in a way that transcended species, with large eyes that seemed to hold ancient wisdom and features that were both alien and somehow familiar. Her presence filled the room with calm energy. Captain Stone made the formal welcoming speech that had been prepared by the diplomatic team. Jake listened carefully to Zarathal's responses, noting how her voice carried musical undertones that the translator couldn't fully capture. He found himself genuinely curious about Kaleri culture. When the formal introductions ended, Captain Stone gestured for everyone to move to the observation lounge for refreshments. This was Jake's cue to begin the cultural exchange portion of the meeting. His job was to help both sides learn about each other's customs and social practices. They walked. Jake found himself beside Zarathel. She moved with such grace that she seemed to float rather than walk. He noticed the intricate patterns drawn on her exposed arms in what looked like silver ink. The designs seemed to shift and flow as she moved, wanting to be friendly and put her at ease. Jake decided to make conversation. He had been told that compliments were universal among intelligent species, so he chose his words carefully. "Those markings on your arms are really stunning," Jake said through his translator. "You must have an amazing artist who did that work. Any guy would be lucky to have someone as beautiful as you." Zarathel stopped walking and turned to face him fully, her large eyes widened with what Jake interpreted as surprise. Her hand moved to touch the crystal pendant at her throat, in what seemed like a nervous gesture. The other Kaleri with her exchanged quick glances, and began speaking rapidly in their native language. Jake caught fragments through his translator, but the conversation was too fast, and used words not in his database. Sarathel composed herself and replied in formal tones that made her voice sound different. Jake Miller of Earth, your words touch my heart deeply. I accept your soul calling with great honor and joy. Our energies shall be bound across the stars. Jake blinked in confusion, not understanding why his simple compliment had gotten such a formal response. He looked around and noticed that Dr. Clark had gone pale and was frantically flipping through his cultural reference notes. Captain Stone was staring at Jake with an expression he couldn't read before. Jake could ask what was happening. Zarathel stepped closer and placed her hand over his heart. The touch sent a warm, tingling sensation through his body, as if gentle electricity was flowing between them. She spoke again in her musical language, and the translator rendered her words as the bonding ritual begins. My chosen one. Amy Ross, who had been watching from nearby, whispered loudly, Jake, what did you just do? The way she's looking at you and touching you, this seems like more than friendship. Dark Clark rushed over with his tablet, shaking his head. Jake, I think you may have accidentally proposed marriage. The Kaleri have complex courtship rituals, and your compliment about beauty and partnership was translated into what they call soul calling. Jake felt his stomach drop as the reality of the situation hit him. He looked at Zarathel, who was smiling at him with obvious affection and warmth. Her hand was still resting over his heart, and other Kaleri were gathering around them, speaking in excited tones. Captain Stone approached the group with diplomatic calm. Zarathel, I believe there may have been a translation error. Could you explain what just occurred from your perspective? Zara? Thel looked confused by the question. Jake Miller has performed the sacred soul calling ritual perfectly. His words were spoken with true heart energy. I have accepted his proposal of life bonding as is proper among our people. The room fell silent, except for the soft humming of the ship systems. Jake realized he had just accidentally gotten engaged to an alien diplomat. During first contact, his mind raced, trying to figure out how to fix this situation without causing an intergalactic incident. Ross broke the silence with poorly suppressed laughter. Well, Jake, looks like your communication skills just got humanity its first interspecies marriage. Captain Stone shot her a warning look, while Dr. Clark continued flipping through his notes, muttering about cultural protocols and diplomatic immunity. Jake looked at Zarathel, who was still smiling at him with genuine warmth, and realized this was going to be much more complicated than anyone had planned. The next morning, Jake woke up in his quarters with a pounding headache and the sinking feeling that yesterday had not been a dream. He sat up in bed and immediately noticed a small crystal pendant sitting on his nightstand. The blue stone pulsed with soft light and seemed to hum with energy he could feel in his bones. Zami Ross entered his quarters without knocking, carrying 2 cups of coffee and wearing a grin that could power the ship. Jake, you look terrible. Did you sleep at all last night? Jake accepted the coffee gratefully and took a long sip before answering. Every time I closed my eyes, I kept thinking about how I accidentally proposed to an alien. How does someone do that, Amy? I was just trying to be friendly. Amy sat down in the chair across from his bed. Still can't believe it happened. The way she looked at you during dinner last night was definitely not how someone looks at a casual acquaintance. She kept calling you her intended and asking about human bonding customs. The crystal pendant pulsed brighter, as if responding to their conversation. Jake picked it up and felt warmth spread through his fingers. What is this thing? It was not here when I went to sleep. Dirk Clark knocked on the open door and entered, looking like he had not slept either. He was carrying a thick stack of printouts and his tablet. Good morning, Jake. I have been researching Kaleri culture all night, and I have some news, both good and bad. Jake set down his coffee. What is the bad news first? According to Kaleri law, you and Zarathel are now officially engaged. The soul-calling ritual is binding and cannot be undone without both parties agreeing to dissolution. However, breaking such an engagement is considered one of the worst insults possible in their culture. It could damage relations between our species. For generations, Sami whistled softly. That is pretty serious. What is the good news? The good news is that Kaleri engagements typically last for one full cycle, which is about 6 months in human time. This gives both parties time to learn about each other and decide if they truly wish to bond permanently. Also, the crystal pendant Jake is holding is a sign of respect. She gave it to you as a symbol of her genuine acceptance. Jake held up the pendant, which seemed to pulse in rhythm with his heartbeat. What does it do, Dar? Clark consulted his notes. It is called a heartstone. It allows bonded pairs to sense each other's emotions and well-being across distances. Kaleri believed that true partners should always be connected on an energy level. The fact that it is responding to you suggests you have some natural compatibility with their bio energy. Captain Stone entered the quarters with her usual no-nonsense expression. Jake, we need to discuss the situation. The Kaleri have sent formal congratulations to Earth Command about your engagement. The news is already spreading through both fleets. Jake felt his stomach drop again. How is Earth Command reacting? Captain Stone sat down and rubbed her temples. They are treating it as a diplomatic opportunity, the chance to study Kaleri culture through an actual bonding relationship is too valuable to pass up. However, they also understand this puts enormous pressure on you. Amy leaned forward. What kind of pressure? The Kaleri High Council is sending a representative to evaluate whether this bonding should be allowed to proceed. They have never had a member of their species bond with an alien before. Some of their people consider it impossible or even dangerous, Dar Clark added. According to my research, Kaleri believe that bonding with incompatible life forms could dilute their energy signatures and weaken their connection to what they call the cosmic flow. Jake stood up and walked to the window, where he could see the Kaleri ship. So basically, I have 6 months to prove that humans are worthy of their species, or I cause a diplomatic disaster. Captain Stone nodded. That is an accurate summary. However, I want you to know that no one expects you to sacrifice your happiness for politics. If you genuinely cannot connect with Zarathel, we will find another solution. A soft chime indicated someone was requesting entry to the quarters. Jake called for them to enter, and was surprised to see Zarathel herself. She wore simpler clothing than yesterday, but still moved with that flowing grace that seemed to defy gravity. Good morning, my intended one, Zarathel said with a warm smile. I hope you rested well. I brought morning nourishment for you. She held out a small container that smelled like flowers and spices. Jake accepted the container, feeling awkward about the situation. Thank you, Zarathel. That is very thoughtful. I should probably be honest with you about something. Zarathel tilted her head in a way that reminded Jake of a curious bird. What troubles your heart? Energy. Jake Miller, I can sense confusion and worry through our heartstone connection. Amy Ross and Dr. Clark exchanged glances before quietly leaving the room. Captain Stone hesitated, then decided to stay. Jake took a deep breath and looked into Zarathal's large blue eyes. Yesterday, when I complimented you, I was not trying to propose marriage. I was just being friendly. In human culture, we often say nice things to people without deeper meaning. I think there was a translation error. Zarathel listened carefully, then smiled in a way that surprised Jake. You believe this was accidental? Yes, I understood the translation difficulty from the beginning. Your words were simple, but your heart energy was sincere. That interested me greatly. Jake blinked in confusion. You knew it was a mistake among my people. We can sense the true intentions behind words. Your compliment came from genuine appreciation, not calculated courtship ritual. However, your willingness to honor the bond, even when confused, showed character that impressed me. Captain Stone leaned forward. You mean you accepted his proposal, knowing he did not mean it? That was... Thel nodded gracefully. I wished to learn if humans could adapt to unexpected situations with honor. Many species panic when faced with unfamiliar customs. Jake Miller showed curiosity instead of fear. That suggested compatibility. Jake sat down heavily, processing this information. So you are testing me to see if humans are worth getting to know Better not testing exactly. Zarathel moved closer, and the Heartstone pendant grew warmer. Learning about each other during our brief time together, I have observed that humans express emotions openly and value individual choice. These traits fascinate me. Emmy Ross poked her head back into the room. Sorry to interrupt, but Commander Veltar from the Kaleri ship is requesting a meeting with Jake. He does not look happy. Zarathel sighed. Softly, Veltar is my colleague and guardian. He believes humans are too primitive for Kaleri society. He will likely challenge your worthiness according to our traditions. Jake looked at Captain Stone. What kind of challenges, Captain? Stone stood up. Let us find out together, Jake. If you are going to be engaged to a member of an alien species, you need to understand what that means for both cultures. As they prepared to meet with Commander Veltar, Jake realized his life had become far more complicated than he ever imagined. However, looking at Zarathel and feeling the warm connection through the Heartstone, he found himself genuinely curious about where this unexpected relationship might lead. Commander Veltar stood nearly 7 feet tall, with silver markings that covered his blue skin in complex geometric patterns. His presence filled the meeting room with an energy that made Jake feel like he was being judged by an ancient force of nature. Human Jake Miller, Veltar spoke in a voice like distant thunder. Your species is young and lacks the wisdom needed for Kaleri bonding. Your emotional chaos will corrupt Zarathel pure energy. Signature. Jake felt the Heartstone pendant grow warm against his chest and sensed Zarathel's calm presence. Even though she was not in the room, the connection gave him confidence he did not expect. Veltar might be intimidating, but Jake was not going to back down from defending his worthiness with respect. Commander, I may be young by your standards, but that does not make me unworthy. Jake replied steadily, humans have our own strengths and I care about Zarathel enough to learn about your culture. Veltar circled Jake like a predator studying. Pray, your species makes decisions based on primitive emotions rather than cosmic harmony. You know nothing of energy manipulation or stellar meditation. These skills take centuries to master. Dr. Clark stepped forward. Commander, perhaps we could arrange for Jake to learn some basic Kaleri practices. Cultural exchange benefits both species. Veltar, sharp eyes fixed on the doctor. Impossible. Humans lack the bioenergy sensitivity required for our most basic techniques. Jake Miller would fail every traditional test of worthiness. Captain Stone crossed her arms. What exactly are these tests, Commander? There are 5 trials that all potential Kaleri mates must pass. Veltar counted on his long fingers. Energy sensing, thought, harmonization, stellar meditation, biorhythm, synchronization, and soul resonance. The last trial requires perfect unity with one intended partner. Most Kaleri fail at least one test. Jake felt a chill run down his spine, but kept his voice steady. When do these trials begin? Tar smiled in a way that showed too many sharp teeth. Tomorrow at dawn, you will have 3 days to complete all 5 trials. When you fail, Zarathel will understand that this bonding was impossible from the beginning. After the meeting, Jake found Zarathel in the observation lounge, staring out at the stars. She turned when he entered, and he could see worry in her large eyes, even though she tried to hide. It too spoke with Veltar, she said softly. I felt your stress through our Heartstone connection. He challenged you to the worthiness trials, did he not? Jake sat beside her on the curved bench. Yes, he did. 5 tests in 3 days. He seems pretty confident. I will. Zarathel was quiet for a long moment, then spoke carefully. Jake Miller, I must be honest with you. These trials are designed for Kaleri physiology and mental training. We begin preparing for them as children. Most humans would find them impossible. That is encouraging, Jake said with dry humor. So why do I get the feeling you think I might have a chance? Because Zarathel turned to face him fully. You approach problems differently than my people. Kaleri follow ancient patterns and traditional methods. Humans seem to find new solutions when old ones do not work. Jake studied her face, which was beautiful in the starlight coming through the windows. Tell me about these trials. What am I up against? First trial is energy sensing, Zarathel explained. You must identify different types of life energy without using your eyes or other physical senses. Kaleri can feel the biosignatures of plants, animals, and people. Jake frowned. That sounds like something humans cannot do naturally. Not in the same way, Zarathel agreed. However, I have noticed that you seem to sense my emotions through our heartstone connection. Perhaps there is human potential we have not explored. Over the next few hours, Zarathel taught Jake basic meditation techniques and explained how Kaleri perceived energy fields around living things. She showed him how to quiet his mind and focus on sensations beyond the normal 5 senses. The second trial is thought harmonization, she continued. This requires 2 minds to share the same mental rhythm and exchange thoughts directly. That sounds impossible, Jake said. Perhaps. Zarathel smiled. But humans have something called empathy that might serve a similar purpose. You seem to understand emotions and intentions without words. They spent the evening practicing mental exercises that Zarathel had learned as a child. Jake found some of them surprisingly natural, especially when he focused on feeling rather than thinking. Amy Ross joined them later with coffee and moral support. She watched Jake attempt to sense the energy field around a potted plant that Zarathel had brought from her ship. This is either the most romantic study date ever, or the weirdest job training I have seen, Amy commented. Both, Jake replied without opening his eyes. He was starting to feel something like warmth radiating from the plant, but could not tell if it was real or imagination. Clark arrived with his scanner and tablet. I have been researching human bioenergy and found some interesting information. Humans actually produce measurable electromagnetic fields from brain and heart activity. We just never learned to consciously control or sense them. Zarathel looked excited by this news. So Jake might have natural abilities that simply need awakening. The third trial is stellar meditation. Dr. Clark read from his notes. This involves connecting consciousness with cosmic energy patterns, typically done during solar flares or near neutron stars. Jake opened his eyes. That sounds dangerous. Not physically dangerous, Zarathel explained, but it requires absolute mental discipline. One must maintain awareness while allowing consciousness to expand beyond normal limits. Many Kaleri find this overwhelming. Amy Ross shook her head. Jake, you realize you are trying to do in 3 days what takes their people years to learn, right? Jake looked at Zarathel, who was watching him with hope and worry mixed in her expression. Maybe that is exactly why I might succeed. I do not have years of expectations about how things should work. The fourth trial is biorhythm synchronization, Zarathel continued. 2 beings must match their heart rates, breathing patterns, and brainwave frequencies. This creates temporary unity of physical systems. The 5th trial, Jake asked. Soul resonance, Zarathel voice became very soft. This is when 2 beings merge their energy signatures completely, for a brief moment, creating a new harmonic pattern. It is the foundation of all Kaleri bonding. Jake felt the weight of what he was attempting. These trials were not just tests, they were the basis of Kaleri relationships and spirituality. He was trying to prove that humans could connect with alien consciousness on the deepest possible level. As the night wore on, Jake practiced each technique with Zarathel guidance. He could feel himself beginning to sense things differently, as if his perception was expanding beyond normal human limits. The Heartstone pendant grew warmer each time he made progress. By dawn, Jake felt more confident than he had expected. He might not master these abilities like a Kaleri, but he was starting to understand how they worked. His human mind approached them from angles that surprised even Zarathel. Standing on the observation deck watching the sunrise, Jake realized something important had happened during their practice session. He was not just learning Kaleri techniques. He was genuinely connecting with Zarathel in ways that felt meaningful and real. Whatever happened in the trials, he knew his feelings for her had grown beyond curiosity or obligation. He was falling for an alien diplomat, and honestly, he was into it. The first trial took place in a specially prepared chamber aboard the Kaleri ship. The room was completely dark and filled with containers holding different types of plant and animal life. Jake had to identify each life form using only his ability 2 cents Bioenergy Commander Veltar watched with obvious satisfaction as Jake struggled with the first few attempts. Jake closed his eyes and tried to remember Zarathel teachings about feeling. Rather than thinking slowly, he began to notice subtle differences in the energy patterns around him. This container holds something that grows toward light, Jake said hesitantly, pointing to his left. Correct? Veltar replied with surprise. A flowering vine from our home world. Jake continued around the room, getting about half the identifications correct. It was not perfect, but far better than Veltar had expected. A untrained human should have failed completely. The second trial required Jake to synchronize his thoughts with Zarathel, while Veltar monitored their brainwave patterns. Jake sat across from Zarathel in meditation pose, trying to empty his mind of distracting thoughts. At first their mental rhythms were completely different. Jake's thoughts jumped quickly from topic to topic, while Zarathel maintained steady flowing patterns, but gradually Jake learned to slow down and match her peaceful mental state. When their brainwaves finally synchronized, Jake experienced something amazing. He could sense Zarathel's thoughts, not as words, but as emotions and images. She was sharing memories of her childhood on the Kalari homeworld with crystal cities and silver forests. For a brief moment, Jake felt like he was seeing through her eyes and understanding the universe from a completely different perspective. When the connection ended, both of them were breathing heavily from the effort. Remarkable, Veltar muttered, checking his instruments. I have never seen a Nan-Kalari achieve thought harmonization so quickly. The third trial nearly broke Jake's confidence. Stellar meditation required him to expand his consciousness while connected to the ship energy systems that channeled radiation from nearby stars. The experience was overwhelming, like trying to hold an ocean in a teacup. Jake felt his sense of self dissolving as cosmic energy flowed through his mind. He could sense the birth and death of distant suns, the movement of planets, and the vast emptiness between galaxies. For a terrifying moment, he thought he might lose himself completely in the infinite. Just when panic threatened to overwhelm him, Jake felt Zarathel's presence through their heartstone connection. She served as an anchor, helping him maintain awareness while experiencing cosmic consciousness. He managed to complete the meditation without losing his sanity. You have natural shields around your mind, Veltar observed, with grudging respect. Most beings cannot survive direct stellar contact without years of preparation. The fourth trial was biorhythm synchronization. Jake and Zara had to match their heart rates, breathing, and brainwaves while performing complex physical movements. It was like dancing while sharing the same nervous system. Jake found this trial surprisingly enjoyable. His human adaptability helped him adjust quickly to Zarathel's biological rhythms. They moved together in perfect harmony, as if they had been partners for years instead of days. Their synchronized movements created beautiful patterns that impressed even Veltar, who admitted he had never seen such natural coordination between different species. Final trial soul resonance was scheduled for the next morning. Jake spent the night in nervous anticipation, knowing this test would determine whether his relationship with Zarathel could continue. Amy Ross brought him breakfast and moral support. You have already passed 4 trials that were supposed to be impossible for humans. Jake, she said encouragingly, whatever happens today, you have proven that our species has potential. The Kalari never imagined Dr. Clark joined them with updates from Earth Command. The news of Jake's trials had reached the highest levels of human government. Everyone was watching to see if this unprecedented bonding could succeed. The soul resonance trial took place in a sacred chamber, decorated with crystals that amplified energy. Jake and Zarathel sat facing each other, surrounded by monitoring equipment that would record their energy patterns. Veltar explained the process. You must merge your life energy signatures completely, creating a new harmonic pattern that combines both of your essences. This is the foundation of all Kalari bonding relationships. Jake looked into Zarathel's eyes and felt the heartstone pendant grow warm against his chest. He could sense her nervousness mixed with hope and realized she wanted this to succeed as much as he did. They began by synchronizing their breathing and heart rates, then gradually opened their minds to each other. Jake felt Zarathel energy reaching toward him like warm light, while his own consciousness expanded to meet hers. What happened next surprised everyone in the chamber. Instead of Jake energy being absorbed into Zarathel pattern, or vice versa, something completely new emerged. Their combined energy created a harmonic resonance, unlike anything the Kaleri had ever recorded. The monitoring equipment registered frequency patterns that pulsed with both human, emotional intensity and Kaleri cosmic awareness. The new energy signature was more complex and beautiful than either species could produce. Along Commander Veltar stared at the readings in amazement. This is impossible according to everything we know about bioenergy compatibility. You have created something that has never existed before. Jake and Zarathel remained connected for several minutes, sharing thoughts, emotions, and experiences on a level deeper than either had imagined possible. When they finally separated, both were glowing with residual energy. Suddenly alarms began sounding throughout both ships. Emergency broadcasts announced that unknown vessels were approaching at high speed. The peaceful first contact was about to become something much more dangerous. Captain Stone's voice came over the communication system. All personnel to battle stations. We have multiple unidentified ships incoming. They are not responding to hails, and their weapons are powered. Commander Veltar received similar reports from his ship. 3 pirate vessels had detected the meeting between humans and Kaleri, and saw an opportunity to capture valuable technology from both species. Jake felt Zarathel fear through their enhanced connection. The soul resonance trial had created a permanent bond between them that went far beyond the original engagement. They were now truly linked on an energy level. We need to help defend the ships, Jake said. Standing up, the new energy pattern we created might be useful. Somehow Veltar looked at him with new respect. Human Jake Miller, you have passed trials that should have been impossible for your species. You have proven that bonding between our peoples can create something greater than either alone is. They rushed toward the command centers to coordinate defense efforts. Jake realized the trials had been about more than proving his worthiness. They had discovered that humans and Kaleri together could achieve things neither species could accomplish separately. Real test was just beginning, as both ships prepared to face an enemy that threatened to destroy everything they had built together. The pirate ships moved like hungry predators, circling their prey. 3 sleek vessels, with weapons that glowed red in the darkness of space, surrounded the human and Kaleri ships. Their leader broadcast a simple message demanding surrender and the transfer of all technology. Captain Stone stood on the bridge of the New Horizon, coordinating with Commander Veltar on the Kalari vessel. Both ships had weapons, but the pirates outnumbered them and appeared to have superior firepower. Jake and Zarathel arrived on the bridge, still feeling the afterglow of their successful soul resonance trial. The energy connection between them pulsed with shared determination and an idea that neither could have conceived. Along Captain Stone, we might be able to help, Jake said, stepping forward. The energy pattern Zarathel and I created during the trial. It might be useful for more than just bonding. How? So Commander Veltar asked through the communication links. Zarathel explained quickly. In our traditional energy work, we can enhance our ship systems by channeling bioenergy through the crystal matrices, but we have never tried combining human and Kaleri energy signatures for this purpose. Clark looked up from his scanner. The readings from your soul resonance trial showed energy output levels far beyond normal Kaleri or human baselines. If you could channel that into the ship defense systems. Amy Ross was already running calculations on her engineering console. The power grid could handle the enhanced energy flow, but we would need to link both ship systems together. That has never been attempted before. Jake felt Zarathel confidence flowing through their bond, along with detailed knowledge of Kaleri energy manipulation techniques that she was sharing directly with his mind. We can do this, he said with certainty that surprised everyone. Though first pirate ship fired a warning shot that barely missed the New Horizon. Hull sparks flew from damaged systems, and the lights flickered. Captain Stone made the decision quickly. Do it. Whatever you two can accomplish together has got to be better than what we can manage separately. Jake and Zarathel rushed to the main engineering section, where Amy Ross was establishing emergency connections between human and Kaleri power systems. The two ships' energy grids linked together, creating a hybrid network that had never existed. Before placing their hands on the central console, Jake and Zarathel reached for the soul resonance state they had achieved during the trial. Their combined energy flowed into the ship systems, creating effects that amazed both Cruza. Shields around both vessels strengthened dramatically, glowing with patterns that shifted between human geometric designs and Kaleri flowing curves. Weapon systems charged to power levels that should have been impossible with conventional energy sources. More importantly, the enhanced sensor arrays suddenly revealed something the pirates had not expected. A patrol fleet was approaching rapidly, drawn by the energy signatures of the bonding trials. The pirates had walked into a trap without realizing it. Commander Veltar, Broadcast. This information to the pirate ships, along with footage of the combined human Kaleri energy systems. The pirate leader faced a choice: retreat immediately, or face a battle they could not win. They lead pirate ship tried one desperate attack, firing all weapons at the linked vessels. Jake and Zarathel channeled their resonance energy into the shields, which absorbed the attack completely and reflected some of the energy back at the attackers. Faced with impossible defenses and approaching Kaleri reinforcements, the pirates chose discretion over valor. All three ships jumped to hyperspace, leaving the diplomatic meeting to continue in pieces. The immediate danger past. Jake and Zarathel found themselves surrounded by cheering crews from both ships. What they had accomplished together went far beyond successful defense. They had proven that human and Kaleri cooperation could achieve remarkable things. High Counselor Nix Andre arrived with the Kaleri patrol fleet and requested an immediate meeting. She was an ancient being whose silver skin was covered with complex markings that seemed to shift and flow as she moved. I have come to evaluate this unprecedented bonding between species, she announced in a voice like distant music. But what I have witnessed suggests this union represents evolution rather than degradation. Stood with Zarathel before the High Counselor, feeling nervous but determined. Your Honor, I know this bonding was unexpected and unconventional, but what we have discovered together has benefits for both our peoples. High Counselor Nix Andra studied the energy readings from their defensive efforts. The harmonic pattern you have created is entirely new, she said slowly. It combines the best qualities of both species while transcending the limitations of either alone. Commander Veltar stepped forward reluctantly. I must admit that I was wrong about human potential. Jake Miller has proven himself worthy through trials and through courage in battle. I give my blessing to this bonding. The formal ceremony took place 3 days later in a specially constructed chamber that incorporated both human and Kaleri design elements. Representatives from both species attended along with dignitaries who had traveled from across the galaxy to witness this historic event. Jake wore a combination of human formal dress and Kaleri ceremonial robes, while Zarathel appeared in flowing garments that seemed to be made from captured starlight. Their vows were spoken in both languages, creating new phrases that expressed concepts neither culture had needed before. When they completed the soul bonding ritual, their combined energy created light patterns that filled the chamber with impossible beauty. Even the most skeptical observers found themselves moved by the obvious love and connection between the two beings. Captain Stone officiated the human portions of the ceremony, while High Counselor Nix Andra handled the Kaleri traditions. The result was something entirely new that honored both cultures while creating space for future growth. Ross served as Jake's best friend and laughed through happy tears as she watched him take this enormous step into an unknown future. Dr. Clark documented everything for the scientific records, while trying not to get emotional about seeing his friend find such unexpected happiness. The celebration lasted for hours, with music and food from both cultures. Jake and Zarathel danced to hybrid rhythms that combined human melodies with Kaleri harmonic structures. their movement together demonstrated the physical expression of their energy bond. As the evening wound down, Jake found himself on the observation deck, looking out at the stars with his new wife. The Heartstone pendant now glowed with steady light that matched the crystal ornament. "Zarathel War, we will explore the galaxy together," she said softly, "helping other species find common ground as we have done. Our bonding has shown that differences can create strength, rather than division." Jake thought about how a simple translation error had led to the most important relationship of his life. "I never imagined when I woke up 3 months ago that I would end up married to an alien diplomat, but honestly, I cannot imagine being happier." Amy Ross joined them on the deck, carrying champagne and wearing a grin. "Jake, I am putting you in charge of all future first contact situations. Your accidental marriage diplomacy worked better than decades of formal protocols. Earth Command has approved our new assignment," Zarathel announced. "Jake and I will serve as cultural liaisons, traveling between human and Kalari worlds. We will help establish the foundation for long-term cooperation between our species." As they toasted their future together, Jake realized that love truly could transcend any barrier, even the vast differences between species. What had started as an embarrassing mistake had become proof that the universe was full of unexpected possibilities for those brave enough to embrace them. The story of Jake Miller and Zarathel would be told for generations as the moment when two species learned that diversity and adaptation were humanity's greatest gifts to the galaxy.